In self-improvement circles, it seems like one of the first things we all hear about is establishing a morning routine. It always seems to be correlated with becoming more productive or feeling our best, all probably with the intent of making more money. And the more time you spend in self-development, the more different activities you hear about: cold plunges, workouts, meditation, getting hydration, reading, the list keeps going. But is there an optimal routine? Is there one that's efficient, that maximizes the benefits so that way you're the best version of yourself today? And is it possible to overdo it? If so, where do you draw the line? At what point does optimization get in the way of production? Which elements really help you to be more productive? And dare I say it, make more money? Because ultimately for me, my routine was one of the big unlocks that helped me to go from making less than $100,000 a year to making $9,000 a week. But is that possible for everybody? And if it all comes down to a routine, why doesn't everybody do it? What I want to spend the time doing today is going over a couple of key fundamentals. I want to talk about the habits that I used, the tools that I used as part of those habits, how my routine has evolved over the years, and then I want to spend some time talking about the dangers and the traps of a routine, as well as how I was able to navigate around those. First thing I would do is I'd wake up and I'd jump straight into my clothes. I'd have them laid out the night before and I'd go straight to the gym. I'd be at my CrossFit gym for about an hour and then I'd hit a protein shake on the way home. And once I got home, then I would have a pretty heavy protein breakfast. After breakfast, I'd get cleaned up and showered right away. And then I would dive right into my reading. Then once I was done reading for about 20 minutes, I would journal and write down my thoughts. From there, I would then go and I would actually spend about 30 minutes role playing and practicing and working on my pitch, identifying areas that I can improve. So all in all, I was at it from about 5 a.m. to about 8:30. Now, here's the thing. A routine typically revolves around the structure and the tools and the habits and the cues that go into it, that make it stick. Right away with my gym, I was with people that I enjoyed their company and we were all stretching and striving for the same goal. And it was something that felt like I was getting a kick out of, as well as I was accomplishing something difficult. That quick victory first thing in the day did wonders for me, both physically as well as mentally. And it was also something that was going to have tremendous long-term benefits for me. Then once I was back home and it was time for me to sit down and do some reading, the quality of the read played a huge role. If I had to kind of categorize it, I would say it was a combination of Stoic philosophy, Christian scripture, as well as psychology and sales methodology. Those four things combined to be this cocktail of personal development that really took my personal understanding of both myself and the people that I worked with and engaged with on a day-to-day basis to a whole new level. And I can't overstate how big of an element the reading segment was for me. That was my education and opportunity to restructure the way that I looked at the world. And then the other thing I used was my iPad, something to write on, but I especially like the iPad just because I was able to fill it with a bunch of prompts and scripts and create a bit of a space for me to just work through the day in advance, as well as to have a spot to be able to just put some thoughts, some observations about myself that I could just get down on paper or digital paper. Those were my tools that I used on a day-to-day basis to make all of that work. The reason that routines can play such a huge role in a person's ability to make money, in my opinion, is because done right, they have a way of providing an emotional, physical, and spiritual base to work from throughout the day. You know what you're trying to accomplish. You feel settled in your mind and in your heart about it, and you're able to pursue it with an intensity and a dedication and a sense of focus that is really hard to stop. That level of focus is a weapon. Bringing that kind of intent to a day changes the nature of it. It can turn what was a hard day into a super easy day. And without that focus, it can make what should have been a straightforward and simple day into a really complicated and a bit of a nightmare. And in my life, my pay has almost always been tied to my performance because so much of my career has really been sales, commission-driven, performance-based pay. I'm a huge proponent of that for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is it's a good reflection of how you're growing throughout your opportunities, especially in sales. The biggest reason for that is because sales is about communication, and communication generally boils down to a transfer of emotion. And so if your emotions are a hot mess or a bag of cats, people that you work with, they can all feel it. And that gets communicated subconsciously, non-verbally, as well as in your word choice. And that's a lesson that I've had to learn the hard way. My emotions have been at the root of some of my best performances and decisions. And at the same time, they've also caused me to make some incredibly stupid mistakes because I wasn't ready for them. And what that routine did was it allowed me to kind of soothe any issues that were immediate at the moment. And then it helped me to correct the long-term issues, as well as getting a better dexterity and being able to handle different situations in order for me to perform at my highest levels, as well as a system of strategy. And as a result of that strategy, a sense of hope and knowing that I was progressing. And the results of that showed in my work as I was able to close more deals, communicate more effectively, and bring more value to both my customers and to my workplace. But of course, there are dangers to a routine. I think the world of self-development has developed so much to the point now where there are all these different options. And on top of those options, a lot of people have added almost every single one of them to their repertoire. And if they miss any single one of the dozen different things, there's a risk for becoming kind of fragile throughout the day. Because one of the biggest dangers of a routine, if it's so complicated and if you make your entire life based on this routine, and if you don't get it, then you're screwed for the day. If you need everything to be perfect on any given day for you to be reasonably productive, I think it defeats the point of having a routine and being productive, especially if there's more than 5 or 6 pieces of a routine built into it. There are different routines for different objectives. I've had different phases of life, both as a student and now as a creator, and also as a salesman and as a coach and trainer. And each one of those different phases has required a different system and a different process for me to be able to reach my best. And we need to recognize what those are. For example, I'm a huge lover of just about anything related to sports. And right now I'm pretty heavily deep into the CrossFit world. And so I follow the CrossFit athletes. I see them train 3 hours a day and then dedicate another 1 or 2 hours a day to their recovery and their nutrition on top of that. CrossFit, if done professionally, can be like a 6 or 7 hour thing. Whereas for me as a hobbyist, if I spend more than 2 hours on it, I'm not fulfilling really what I'm supposed to be doing throughout the day. And then what's the return? I mean, I could get stronger, I could get better, I could get faster, but I'm not really interested in performing at the athlete games right now. It would be a complete diversion for me to go and spend 4, 5, 6 hours a day that I just don't have on something like that. Just like how there's a risk in being able to turn a hobby into a massive distraction, there's also a risk for being able to take a routine and turn it into a massive diversion. And so you have to ask yourself, does the routine feed into your long-term longevity while leaving enough space for you to get the things done that need to be done today, right now? Part of that sustainability includes emotional and spiritual health. And I think that's where people get into trouble. Sometimes they just let certain things get neglected for too long. And then they overcorrect in everything spiritual or emotional that they've neglected to this point. And one of the other mistakes that I've made related to that is in thinking that this state of balance is some kind of perfect state where you reach it and then you just kind of hunker down. It's not. It is a moving target, and that adjusts with our own personal growth. And the way to best achieve that balance is the same way that you would like riding a bike or a motorcycle. Keep it moving forward in order to just maintain a natural sense of balance, because that's how I think humans operate by nature. And that's the mistake that I even caught myself making recently. Just a few weeks ago, I noticed that as I've been trying to add on content creation and creativity to my regular routine, I've added different elements to my morning routine. And it's now, or rather it was, like 9 items long of different things that I wanted to accomplish before I checked in at work, so to speak. What I realized is that I can't afford to do that because I actually wasn't getting anything really done. And then on top of that, I was running the risk of sacrificing my ability to bring in the bread, so to speak, on a day-to-day basis. And so now what I actually focus on is I go to bed having already done my nightly planning because I know what I'm after, and it helps me to reconnect and kind of hit the ground running the next day. As soon as I wake up, I go and I eat breakfast, and then I actually go straight into my emotional side where I spend about 15 to 20 minutes journaling and then quickly reviewing the plan that I made the day prior. And then I spend another 15, 20 minutes just reading, retouching working on some key core beliefs that just helps me to kind of reground and recenter myself. And then I go straight into my creative work. Then once I've done it, I kind of transition. I give myself a break by going, showering, getting cleaned up and ready for the day. Then I spend another 15 minutes diving back into the sales world so that way I can hit the ground running when I go to work. Different seasons, different methods, but I still keep the CrossFit. I just move that to later in the day. And it's something that kind of motivates me to look forward to at the end of the day, where I know I can kind of go be with my friends and just relax and blow off some steam. Looking at it all, it's really a matter of systems and processes, because what these systems and processes actually do is they provide you with leverage. And that leverage can make achieving any and every goal super easy. That was one of the major reasons I was actually able to, while earning $9,000 a week, also able to lose about 15% in body fat, all because of those systems. And it wasn't really my focal point. If you want to learn about that, I actually have another video coming up on that shortly. So be on the lookout for it. Subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you later.